But fast forward to this point now, you have really made a name for yourself, even having your own fan club, your own movement, people not only in Toronto, but like all over the world really supporting your movement. My question is, what were some of the hardest moments in your journey to becoming a renowned songwriter artist as you are? And how did you overcome these hardships?
Um, I think for me, like the hardest thing for me, and it sounds so like, it sounds like really like when I say it, but I think the hardest thing for me was trusting myself. Like, I think that was like a really big thing for me. Like, I think, like I had periods where it was like, you know, I would write songs or I would like do songs and like I would release them and I would see that people would love it. But then I would be like distracted by like people on the other side saying, well, you need to make music like this or you need to do something like this. And it's like, and not trusting myself or like what the people were telling me that they liked because I felt like I didn't necessarily know. And like the people that were telling me that I should do something else knew more than me. When in reality, it's like I'm learning now where it's like everything that is coming my way is literally just because I'm solely being myself. Like I'm not trying to be someone else. I'm not listening to what anyone else is saying. And I'm really big on like, listening. I think it's like I don't know if it's like a Caribbean thing, but like growing up in a Caribbean household, like it's just like a respecting. Like if someone older than you says something, like you take it in and you're like, okay, like, and you do something with it. But I'm learning when it comes to like my music and my craft, I take everyone's opinion with a grain of salt because there is some truth to it and there's something to take from everyone's advice, but that doesn't mean that you should switch your whole thing because especially if something is working for you. So I think it's really important just to pay attention to everything, and that's something I wasn't doing before. Like I would just do something and it would go over my head until I listened to someone else. I'm like, wait, why didn't that work for me when I felt something different the last time? So I think that was like the biggest thing for me, like trusting myself.
Yeah, that's very common in the Korean culture as well,
Hmm.
where like older people, they tell you something and you have to, respect what they say. And there's even a certain way you can only talk to older people, like very formally.
Hmm.
Um, and it's very hard to stand your ground and step up to that. A lot of times sometimes a lot of maneuvering and stuff like that, but like yeah, Gina agrees. So I guess my question is, where did you get the courage and conviction to just block all of the noise and just sort of be like, you know what? I respect that person. I respect who he is or she is in their opinion, but I just got to do me.
Mm, if I'm being honest with you, when I had wrote Slide, which would have been, I wrote Slide in November. So when I had wrote Slide, because at that time, like I'm just gonna like go into it a little bit, but like when I had changed my name, like my name change was actually because, I was dating someone and he had ended up like cheating on me and he had got the girl pregnant and I found out on Instagram and it was like such a bad timing for me as far as like, like I just felt like I wasn't in a good place music wise. I just felt like I was giving so much of my time to this person and I just kind of backtracked and I was like, okay, you know what, let me rebrand everything, like this is what I stand behind, this is what I want to do and stuff like that. So I kept making songs about him, but I was too scared to say his name. So I just said SadBoi because he's also an artist. And I was listening back to my music. I'm like, oh, I should call myself SadBoi because I think there's something really powerful in this and something that I could do. And like, yes, I'm hurt right now, but it's like something that I could flip in the end as I continue to heal and like, all these things. But for me, it was like I had wrote Potential and I did Potential and Potential did really well in Europe. Really, 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 really well. And everyone just seemed to love Potential. Like Potential was just a song that everyone was just like, that's like the one. And I remember following up to Potential in my head. I was like, okay, like this is what I think we should do next or whatever the case may be. And I ended up taking like advice from like others and I went completely different than what I felt I should have done. And I remember people like did not like it. I'm gonna be so honest, like people did not like it. I remember like looking at my phone, looking at the comments, and reading the comments, and I was like, oh, like you guys don't like this, like at all, like what I'm like making. And I myself wasn't even sure of me dropping those songs. And I love those songs, but I just don't think it was like the right time, following like potential. And it was like again a situation where people were like, you need to make a song like this, you need to make a better potential, you need to make a song like potential, you need to have the island influence, you need to use your accent, like what was it that you were thinking about when you wrote potential. And it was just very much like to the point where like I went through writer's block. Like I was in such a bad place. I was really depressed. Like it just felt like everything was just hitting me at once. And my producer ended up sending me, and he's someone that I've known since I was like 15, and he's from Brazil, but he lives in Paris. And he sent me a pack of beats. And I just went in the WhatsApp, my WhatsApp messages, and I pulled up the beat, and the first beat was the slide beat. And I had went in my washroom and I just recorded. Like I just started writing the song and recorded on my other phone, but I didn't overthink it. I more so did it to like uplift myself, to make myself feel good. And that was like the moment for me where it like clicked because it felt so good to do it. But I'm like, I was so scared to even release it because I'm like, everyone wants me to do this. Like, I don't like it. And I remember everyone was like, Slide needs to come out. And I remember how good I felt writing Slide, but when I recorded it, even the day I recorded Slide, I'm like, the song is horrible. Like, I literally was talking so bad on myself. And like to the point where like I started feeling like, oh, like what I'm doing isn't good enough. I'm not a good enough writer. Like, like maybe like I shouldn't be doing this. And then everyone was like, oh, drop Slide. And the minute I had dropped Slide, everything just changed. Like as far as like everyone's opinions. Well, I mean, people still had opinions, but like even like the people like that were listening to Slide, or the people that came across it, it was a lot bigger than what I had with potential. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, I think I'm like understanding things and seeing things a bit differently now. And that's kind of like the moment I got to that place. And it's so crazy because it took like a year of me even changing my name for me to even get to that place.